should be joining us in a moment. So it's Father's Day, right? And we did gifts with my dad earlier.
Right.
And she's doing gifts with hers right now, and he's like, really love
Aw.
that gift. So she's like, I'll be there in a minute. And I'm like, all good. So beautiful.
All good.
Yes. I was just saying like how much I love all of your clothing. I've been seeing so much of
Oh,
like you're going live and all that all the time, and like watching all what you wear in your music videos. Like, what inspires your fashion?
and I don't know. I just like fashion. I really
Yes.
really like fashion. I think that how I see myself, like at my core, is a very like ethereal, like floaty, happy type person. I try to get the most flowy, most dramatic, most like, but I also like clothes that like I don't want to wear anything that says "look at me." Like I don't like loud clothes like that.
Mhm.
I think they have their place. For me, I'd rather like if you notice, you notice. If you don't, you don't. But that's not the point.
Exactly. I feel like minimally you have to really at least dress up to show what shade you're wearing today, right? That's sort of how I've been
Right.
going about it. I recently like lost a lot of weight, and before that I like didn't really like I didn't appreciate like clothes on my body, and
Mhm.
now I'm like appreciating it for what it is, because like I'm not my body isn't like this like, sexy guitar or something. It's like still like I'm still working on it, but like I like it and like I love
Well,
it
but
now.
first, I will say that the sexiness of your body is not determined by where you sit on the size or weight scale.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
however, if you have found a spot that feels really good to you and feels really great and you feel sexy at that spot or you feel more yourself at that spot and you can wear more clothes that you like, then I'm all for it.
Yes. Like literally what I've basically been doing is actually wearing some of like my sister's stuff. For example, she has all these like
Yes.
tight denim jackets and shit, and just also as a queer person, the way I wear clothing changes all the time.
Yeah.
Like, and I love when the work that I do, like whether it's in theater or acting or anything like that, if I have to dress up and like play a certain part, like part of some of my favorite moments of creating like a character is just like thinking about what they would wear,
When the outfit goes on, it feels complete.
right?
You can do all for me, like you can do all the like back work, all the scene work, all the stuff so that you're ready. But there's something about when that last facet closes and you look at yourself and it's not you, it's so transformative for me at least. Some people are
That's
good
a
enough where they don't need that, but not me. I like seeing
I love no
myself.
I love the outfit. Don't get me wrong. Like I still have this like I played a talk show host who was a woman, and I literally went down the street to the thrift shop, $10 for this amazing like pink blazer, and
Fierce.
I still wear it. I wore it to an audition. I got a callback. I'm not saying it's because of the blazer, but
But
the blazer didn't hurt. That's all I'm gonna say about that. And they would never know the lesser. They would have no idea.
you know, I will say if the blazer made you feel
Hmm.
emboldened and confident, then maybe it was because of the blazer.
I could live with that, honestly. I'm there for
No?
that. This is a pretty great transition to talk about the first time you put on the genie costume. To clarify, you played the genie in Aladdin on Broadway.
Yes. I have the picture from, well, do you want the first time in the fitting or the first time like before my
I want
put
to
in?
hear the fitting. Let's hear the fitting first.
So the fitting, the very first time I went to go get fitted, you know, they do it in these like mock-ups first. So it's all white and it was actually really quite glamorous.
Mm,
Um,
wow.
I was really living for it, and to tell you the truth, I hadn't seen the show before. Um,
Get out of here.
so I was like, "Well, this is fair." It's like, "Well, wait till you see it in the genie blue." And they actually ran out of the old genie fabric, So they had to wait until they made a whole new thing of genie fabric for me
Damn.
to get my costume. And I remember the first time I put it on and I looked in the mirror and I was like, fuck,
Uh,
this is real. Like there's no, like they've now spent God knows how much
yeah.
on this outfit. And with the genie fittings, we did three of my outfits. We have three. Well, we have four, but we did three of them at the same time. We did the blue genie suit, the white genie suit, and the zoot suit that goes over it.
Right.
The Arabian Nights one we did a little later, but the first one that they put me in was the blue genie suit, and I was nervous to see if I could take a picture, but he was like, "Of course you can take a picture, like just don't post it." But like, of course. So I took the picture and I sent it to my mom, and she was crying. It was like a whole thing. Having been able to put it on already informed how I approach the character.
Absolutely.
It
I feel
was
that
really
every time
beautiful.
you even like wear the shoes or put on a costume
Right.
or anything like that, it changes your posture because for me, I'm also like very sensitive to like fabric on my body. Always have been for some
Hmm.
reason. Like when I was a kid, I used to take the tags off the back of my shirt because I didn't like it.
I can't
It-
stand tags.
Oh, okay,
No,
great.
I
Well,
hate tags. They're so
you're on
itchy
the
and
same page.
uncomfortable, and they ruin the illusion. They mess up the fantasy. Take the tags off.
But you produce your own work, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I had to work a shift a year ago at the Trolls the Experience exhibit, and nobody would come to cover my shift for my audition for this thing you were producing called Thick Blood, Thick
Thick
Water.
water.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your name was totally on that. And funny enough, Morgan Dean is going
Yes,
to
it
be
was a
starring
classmate of mine.
classmate from
We
where'd you
went
go?
to Hart. We both went to Hart.
Damn, I love the Hearts. When did you graduate Heart?
2016. Oh,
Wait, that's it?
I feel so old. Yeah, I'm 25 now.
Mm, I'm 25 now.
Hey!
Hey, I had no idea you were 25 years old. I guess it
Yes.
makes sense. Like you're so young and vibing, so like it
Oh, thank
makes
you.
sense.
You know, it's funny because when I shaved my head, so I booked Aladdin when I was 22,
Oh,
and I shaved my head, and all of a sudden I look 30, but I still sound 12. So that's how we get the
exactly.
net of 25.
Nah, Juwan, you're lucky son of a bitch, man. I'm not gonna lie. You have that high pitched voice already as it is. Like it's fascinating to me because my voice didn't really drop until I was like 17 or 18 years old. You would never
Mm.
know that by talking to me now. But like I was a boy soprano till like man, high school was hard because like I was just
I
not growing up.
understand that.
Yeah.
Well, I went to an all boys high school, and it was actually I'm not like it wasn't so bad. Uh, I think because it was all boys, there was like less pressure. And then our generation, I found at least by the time we got to high school, and it was a Catholic high school, but most of the people just didn't care
Right.
that I was gay,
That's awesome.
which I thought was lovely. It was not like that before I went there, but I mean, for whatever reason, thanks to the gay pioneers of that high school who went before me,
That's
can't think of one
wonderful.
issue. Yeah,
That's so. Where did you grow up?
Connecticut.
Hey, right across the bank. I'm on Long
Right.
Island right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm right by Plainview, but I sometimes I bike to Oyster Bay, so I see Connecticut across the way.
It's a
It's
beautiful little
stunning.
state.
Is that where you are right now, or are you in New York?
Oh, I stayed in Brooklyn. Um,
Nice.
I was
Mm,
gonna go home, but something was like, don't go home. You know, your grandmother and your mother, both your grandparents, your grandmother on your dad's side and your mom was higher risk. So all four of them. So I was like, I should just stay in the city in case I have it and I don't know. And then like 2 weeks went by and I couldn't smell anything for a few days. And I was like, was that it? I'm actually waiting to get my antibody test. I should know by the end of the day.
Nice. I'm so excited for you. I can't wait. We'll
I
we'll
know. I
post the
don't know.
results
I'm
live.
like, do I want do I want to be negative or do I want to be positive and have just been asymptomatic?
Mm. I think you want those antibodies for
Right.
sure. Oh, by the way, Mariah's here. She just came in. What up,
Hi.
Mariah?
Hi. Hey.
Yes, hair. I need
Yes.
hair. I'm so
Oh,
bald and you're
Yes.
not.
Yes.
Need hair. Both of
What?
y'all have hair. I'm so jealous.
I just cut it actually a few months ago and it grew back.
You're cutting it? Don't
It's
cut
fine.
it. Well, if you cut it, send it to me in a nice
I
little
got you.
Ziploc.
I
yo,
got you.
I
Oh,
love that.
what are y'all talking about?
We've been talking about fashion. We talked about the genie a little bit. Juwan is a producer and also a recording artist, and he's
That's
only 25 years old. And having just turned 25, I'm not gonna lie, feel a little
Oh
more
my gosh.
responsibility.
Don't. Are you kidding me? I know so many people much younger than me or my age that have done so much, and I feel like I've done nothing. And I will
Oh,
tell you what somebody told me that I have taken with me for the rest of my life. If you're
Oh,
looking to the left or the right, you can't move forward.
oh, amen.
oh, I
I
fuck with
didn't
And
I didn't make it to church today, but that's a message.
that.
you know, there's truly no comparison because there's only your path.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I'm writing that
Yeah.
down right now as we speak, by the way.
Yeah, I found myself, it's very easy to compare yourself to like a billion people. It's literally what our industry makes us do. It's like,
Yeah.
look at that person. You could do
100%.
that. And that's like one thing that, funny enough, can work out for you. Like I've come very close to like a similar like genie role on Broadway or national tour of that capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that it's like both, right? It's like, yes, there's a spot for me and that's amazing, and like whoever paved that way, that's pretty dope. But at the same time, it's, you don't want to like clout chase or anything like that.
Well, I mean, I I've been so blessed that by the time I came to New York, James Monroe Iglehart and Titus Burgess, both in their own way, had already created like if they didn't happen, then I my career would have been much harder.
Mm,
And I
right.
think it
But
took
you paved the
really
way.
both of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope that I can continue to create whatever. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just I'm just constantly doing it.
Juwan, you kind of make it sound like you just like booked this one job and it like just sort of changed everything, and
You just
and
walked in.
and, and now you're just chilling. And I
Well,
love that.
no, like Big T,
It's
I
a lot of
auditioned
work.
for the national tour of Aladdin
Mm.
several times, and they told me no. They said my voice was too high, I was too young, and I was in Spamilton at the time, and I was like, which was a great show. I had a great time, but I was like, I need money. Like,
Were you in that with Larry Owens, by the way?
no, Larry Owens was my replacement.
Damn, what
Wow,
a
look at that.
I
That's ironic.
Mm-hmm.
right. And I because I booked Spamilton my last day of college.
Wow.
So I had
Man.
2 weeks, then we
Well,
graduated, then we went straight to rehearsals.
a college that lets you audition for things that are not like being produced by them. What college is that?
Well, it was my senior year.
Right.
So they
There you
were
go,
encouraging us to go out, so that way we wouldn't wait till after graduation to start
Mm-hmm.
auditioning. We could like talk
What a
about
concept.
our auditions. We
Yeah.
came back with our professors, like what went wrong, what could have we done better. And it was my last day, literally my last day of college, and I had the final call back for Spamilton. And I was like, I've got to go. And I missed my
Amazing.
academic classes. It was crazy. The teacher's like, what do you mean you're missing the last day of college? I was like, my future.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm busy.
That's
Absolutely.
incredible.
but it worked
What
out.
audition song do you
Yeah.
spam?
So for Spamilton, I use Your Daddy's Son. And for
Happy Father's Day.
right, happy Father's Day. And for so I actually auditioned for Mean Girls. and I sang Rainbow High.
Mm.
And because the thing was like, sing something that Damien would sing, very gay love theater. I was like, Rainbow High. And I sang that, and that's what booked me Kimmy Schmidt and Aladdin.
Wow.
Nice. What season of Kimmy Schmidt were you on?
I was on the last season.
Oh man,
Me
that's
and
amazing.
Titus.
What did you do with Titus? Were you like, maybe if I'm remembering, were you in a musical or something like that in it?
So
Okay.
Tina, when I had the audition for Mean Girls, Casey, who directed both Mean Girls and Aladdin, was like, "You'd be a great Damien, but you would also be a great genie, and we need genies." I was like, "Listen, I just want to be on Broadway, so
Yeah, man.
whichever one."
Put me in.
And
Yeah.
and Tina was like, "I'm gonna put you on my show as well." And so they wrote me in for an episode. I played like a 12-year-old because I sound 12.
Amazing.
I shaved my
Amazing.
facial hair, and it's just bald, giant 12-year-old. And I
That's
played like a mini Titus. Yeah, and I had most of my scenes were with Titus.
Yes.
Wow.
It was really great.
That's amazing. I love that you got so quickly to connect to those people that paved that way for you. You know?
It's
That's-
insane.
Literally.
It's insane that like I literally was on the phone with James a few days ago, like on just having conversation, and then like doing scenes with Titus. I was like, what in the world is my life?
James Monroe Iglehart is the coolest fucking guy. He
is.
writes comic books.
Yes.
He's like no, he wants to be the Joker. Did he ever voice the Joker?
I'm not sure. I'll send
Man,
him a text
well,
and
he
see.
should voice the Joker. He's one of those people.
All the genies are nerds.
Wow.
I believe
Really.
it. I
All
love
of
this
us.
genie community that's going on. That
Okay,
you've got a
yeah.
friend in me video?
I was gonna say my favorite. I still like watch just the genie medley. I just watch it. I'm just. And Aladdin is actually one of my brother. He's 4 years older than me. He's not really into musical theater. He is a musician though, so he can appreciate anything. But
Yeah.
He wasn't like really encouraged toward musical theater. But he had a girlfriend at the time who was like, "You should come see a Broadway show with me." And the first show they saw was Aladdin. And for him, he was just like, I just didn't know how much went into, these shows and how much of a, how much of a big, like
full out. Yeah.
that Broadway can be. And so like, Aladdin was his intro show for, for seeing things. And now he's thinking about like how he could, compose more music, for shows and for movies. So
Nice.
it's mind opening. It's mind altering,
It's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
Juwan, do you write your own music?
Yeah.
Hypothetical question or whatever, rhetorical question.
Yeah.
Yeah, terrible transition there. But you have your own EP that you dropped this year called Running.
Yeah.
And would love to hear you talk about the process of songwriting.
It's so the whole thing started. So the first time I left Spamilton, which is when Larry came. We love Larry.
Love Larry.
Huge star. We all knew.
Ridiculous.
I went to go do a show called Found. And betwixt us girlfriends, I love theater so much, but music is my first passion.
Awesome.
And I was talking with some people on that production, and our music supervisor, at the end of it, he only spoke to me like 3 times when we did it. And at the end of it, he was like, "If you ever want to do more than theater, here's my cell, let me know." And after I booked Aladdin, I could finally afford to do my own music. I hit him up, and he set me up with this amazing producer, Dominic Felicaro, and we worked on that EP for months, and we co-wrote it, and it was a really good partnership, the two of us, and we got her done, and it was amazing. It was so much fun, and I can't wait to do it again. Because there's nothing, I've never felt anything like what that process is. For me, writing happens often. It's not something that like you can coax it out, but like you can't plan it. Um, Often for me, whole songs will either just drop into my head or like a full hook, and then I'll work out from there. But
Mm,
I don't feel like I really do that much. I feel like it's just my job to be open to whatever the muses want to bring
for
and
sure.
to get it out when it comes.
Man, I fuck
That's
with that.
awesome. I mean, I've had situations, you know, like I write, and I think the hardest part for me now is finding producers who can hear just a melody, for instance, and be able to like, you know, really build around it.
Right.
Not many can do that. So you've got like, I guess, the perfect storm for sure, in that you can be inspired, and then someone can, you know, come alongside you. You know, not everyone has, you know, like perfect pitch or what have you to you know,
But
look, I mean,
I do
it's
think,
very different.
and it's what I'm learning now. My producer Dominic really pushed me to
Yeah.
learn how to self-produce, not so that, I mean, eventually I'll do like my own self-produced solo whole album, but
Mm.
not not right now. Although I've written like 60 songs
Oh,
during
God
these
bless.
past 3 months.
Yeah,
But
you seem like you're in that sweet spot as an artist right now, right? Because you have the resources of the greater industry like Broadway on your side, and that gives you the freedom to create your own work. And I
yes,
think between the two of those things, I'm doing it the other way around, because like I feel like producing my own work at a time like this just seems like the only way to keep the wave going. At least for me. There's other ways of people who can just keep practicing that fucking monologue, and when grad schools open up again, like go to grad school, and then that's a whole other thing. There's so many different entry points. That's
I'm with you. I feel like I personally I have to just keep creating. Um, I mean, I do both. You know, I still practice my instrument. Um, I haven't done a monologue. My vocal exercises, you know,
oh yeah,
my
no, I
dance
can't
style,
help
I
it.
stay in shape. But for me, the creative muscle is a muscle that takes the longest to rebuild. And I noticed that my level of creativity, for me right now, the greatest resource is time. We just have so much time. And, you know, like we're not getting paid from Broadway, everyone's on unemployment. But
Mm,
what is realistic is the fact that I have all day, every day, to write and to create new stuff. Um, I was writing like a song a week, 2 songs a week, but I've gotten to a point now where I'm writing like 3 a day.
That's
wow,
So
amazing. But
truly.
it's finding that flexibility between your work, because now it sounds like your day job was like Broadway.
Broadway.
And finding the time to create between Broadway and that's the dream I've been thinking about since I was 15 years old. Like taking all day, if you don't have an audition, to like do something until the show
Right.
happens,
And
Yeah,
I will
that's so
say, I'm
beautiful.
very blessed that my day job, in quotes, is something that I love to do. But also, I'm really lucky that it has facilitated me doing the thing that I go to sleep and wake up thinking about, which is music.
Wow, beautiful. That's beautiful. Beautifully said as well. I tend to lose my creative flow in this, you know, I guess in a similar way, especially when like life is overwhelming
life
and
is overwhelming.
unbearable, you know. And a lot of times, like I'm inspired by folks who are like, oh, that's when I'm more creative. That's when I just, you know, I can just like that's amazing. But I mean, and maybe you can speak to this, but like I definitely found that I will hit the wall, or I'll hit um a a crossroad where it's like, okay, like I could just relax, let the music come to me, you know, or I could just, you know, go pay my bills, and
Right.
you know, it's very hard. It's become increasingly hard now that we don't have, we don't have a known source of income. We don't know how long, you know, unemployment's going to even last, and we have a government who is just like
here you go, but then they want to make it rain on corporations and blah blah blah.
Right.
So it's like, you don't know right now like how much of this is in your control, but like I guess maybe we could speak more to like doing things you can control, like and embracing the things you can control, taking them to the next level. For me, I've kind of created a space now where it's like, like I want to be the only source of my income, so I've, gotten my hands in a couple of different things.
Mariah, you moved out of your home.
Yeah, today's my first day back.
During during the civil rights movement, during a global pandemic, you left home for the first time.
Literally. And it's like,
Good for you. Here I am. I said, let me get this antibody test, and I'm gonna go see my family after. I've been alone for a few months.
No, today's my first day back home. I wanted to, I organized my father's Father's Day present, so I wanted to be home to see him, enjoy it, and he did. He loved it. But yeah, as of June 1st, I have been living in the city and just kind of taking things slowly, and just embracing the time, of like to see myself differently, to see others differently, and again to make that money, because it costs a lot to live outside of of your parents' place, of course.
Mariah has a business.
I do.
Yes. Well, tell me about your business.
I started a business. I started a jewelry business. Thank you.
Jewelry, I'm sold.
Oh, perfect.
Send me the link.
I'm done. Got you. I got you. And that's what I've been working on. I've been working on my website is launching next week. I have, folks have been so amazing and supportive. Like, it was just once I said yes, I guess, and like, I'm going to do this, things started to just line up. And I've had this vision for a business since I was in high school, since I was maybe 17 years old. And, we're all 25 now. So, so it's been a long time coming. And things just sort of slowly dropped in. First came the jewelry, the actual product. Then came the purpose. And it's just like, well, why am I into making jewelry out of trash or out of recycled items and out of things that are not, typical, your typical jewelry stuff? Why am I interested in that? And it all kind of came together. I went to an environmentally friendly high school. I went to an environmental and engineering high school, which kind of sounds like an oxymoron, but we were very good. We saved a lot of waste as a school, as a community. We were very good at, repurposing things, and that taught me a lot about myself as well. So
Absolutely.
I don't know. I think repair is going to become a very big part of our lives as we move forward. Even with this, and you said civil rights, but I think we're in a human rights crisis right now. I think in this country, and I strongly.
I think in the world.
Yeah, this world, the world is literally on fire. When people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna move. I'm leaving the country." I'm like, "Where are you gonna go?"
And you
everywhere.
know what? I think that it, as unfortunate as COVID-19 is and coronavirus, I think that it has reminded everyone of our mortality, because we're seeing so many beautiful lives be taken away, and it makes you really think about how short our lives are, and it makes you want to do the thing that you really want to do.
Absolutely,
And
man. It exposes all the inequities in the world, and it gives us.
Everybody can see it now. Like these protests I've been to, it's been 10, 15, 20, 25,000 people at these protests. And I think a lot of that is because prior to this, all these people who do want to do what's right were just too busy to see it.
They were, and now that they're stuck at home, there's nothing to do but see everything around you.
Not see it.
And if you have that morality in you, you can't just do nothing.
Fuck no. Juwan, 2 weeks ago, when we were doing this, we were gonna have some guest on and talk about like his Marvel movie and shit, and I was like, I can't do this. I can't pretend that shit isn't happening right now, because it was, I mean, that was like June 2nd. That was the moment where we were the protests started to sort of overflow in a way Donald Trump's Tulsa rallies never will. And I feel like it was that radical moment where we were like, no, this is, as Mariah said, this is like a human rights movement. It really
Yeah,
is.
we have, that is 100% right. I remember you were like, I don't think this is appropriate for us to like move forward as if nothing's going on. And I want to thank you for that, Keith. Like I thanked you before. I thanked you when it was happening, when we were literally talking about changing our entire roster and being more intentional right now about who we are putting on the show and who we want to talk to, and like, you know,
Yeah.
and about the conversations we have with them, you know?
Exactly. And it's not to
Like,
say that like those were
important.
2 days where we just had
Yeah.
like 2 white people in a row, and that never ever 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 happened. Never. There had been, I don't
Like,
know,
what are the
we've had
odds?
non-binary, we've had plenty of members of the BIPOC community, but just those 2 days, it was just me and a white
What is it called? What did you say? The BIPOC?
the
Oh,
BIPOC community.
Black and Indigenous people of color. Yeah.
I love that. That is the abbreviation, because I've been saying BIPOC.
Me too.
I never know.
I'll tell you my journey with it. I'm reading this book right now, Me and White Supremacy by Layla Saad, which 1 million people are renting.
Yeah, everyone's reading it.
Don't buy the other workbooks, people, on Amazon. There's rats trying to sell different versions of her book.
That's right,
Yeah.
they are.
Anyway, I've been listening to her audiobook, and she's British, so she keeps saying BIPOC, and I kept looking up the word BIPARK, BYPARK,
Okay.
and luckily for dumbasses like me, she left a vocabulary PDF with the Audible book, so thank God. I was looking up some other word, and I was like, that's what she's saying. I kept writing BIPARK, and I was like, this doesn't mean, this has to mean something.
This is like a very interesting day at the park. No. I first I was like, did he say BIPOC? And I was like, oh, because like I just saw it all spelled out how like what it would possibly be. But no,
I love
think
it.
it's important. Same, me too. We have a lot of folks though who are just not saying or doing anything right now, who were extremely vocal before quarantine, extremely vocal during the quarantine. You know, they had a lot of stuff to put out.
Uh-huh.
They had a lot of stuff to get to do. And then all of a sudden now everyone's quiet. Nobody wants to say anything or do anything.
Talk about it. I see podcasters just talking about, like, I don't know, the moon. Like, who gives a fuck, man?
Like, I tried to listen to my normal podcast, and I realized, like, one of the podcasts I was trying to listen to, are we calling people out? We can edit it out.
I don't care.
I was listening to Last Podcast on the Left, which I love that podcast. They're great. And it's 3 white dudes. You know, I've always listened to them, and I never had like oh, it's 3 white guys. Like, should I be? No, I could relate. I thought it was great. You know, they were talking about funky, cool paranormal activities and serial killers.
Paranormal.
Great stuff.
Oh Lord.
When it came to the conversation that we're having nationally about white supremacy and, you know, doing the work that they, you know, usually on the show, they swear they're so liberal and they're so woke and they're trying. But during this time, it's just been nothing. And I haven't listened in the last week just because I'm not really interested in hearing things as usual anymore. Because if you're thinking that we're going to come out of quarantine and keep moving forward in this human rights battle, and we're just going to pretend like we're all back to normal, like, are you serious? You know, like, get ready for the hard conversation. If you're not talking right now, get ready for that really hard conversation.
There's someone I know who I'm friends with on Facebook, who every time before this happened, every time Trump said anything, posted 16 articles against the man and has not said a word.
Like, there's so much to say now.
What in the living hell? What the fuck? And it's because people are disillusioned and they think that this doesn't affect them. And what they fail to understand is that the system, as it were, the reason we've collapsed the way we collapsed is because it was never equitable. It's because it was never holding everyone up the same way. So when it broke down, of course it's going to break down this way. And it's dependent on the people right now and for the past 3 months who we deemed as unimportant.
That's right.
They're the very people still having to carry this entire country. Yet 5 months ago, people were making jokes about them.
Yep.
I can't watch any old shit anymore.
Right.
I feel like...
We see politicians pandering to Black minds as if we are unintelligent or unable to see through simple tricks and comments and schemes. You see Trump trying to constantly just bait people as if we're dumb enough to expel our energy on anything that is not moving forward. It's all these distractions. And honestly, to tell you the truth, I have more respect for the people who I am currently working against than I have for the people who are standing by and doing nothing. Because if you actively believe in something, then that means when we do reach you, you're also going to move and believe in this.
Right.
But the
it
people
will actually.
who are willingly, who
Indifferent.
know that when this rolls over, and I really do think, not that we're going to undo 400 years of systematic conditioning before the end of quarantine, but we can get laws changed. Oh, forgive me, my burp, I'm sorry. We can get laws changed. We can get reform happening. We can get money back into communities. Yeah. These are real things that we can do now, so we can start to undo the centuries of conditioning. And the people who are indifferent and are choosing to just sit back and not participate are the worst type of people.
Yeah, because they don't agree with the methods and the tactics and the rioting. That's what we talked about. The Birmingham letter. Yeah.
Right. Like your opinion on rioting is completely overshadowing the bigger movement at hand. And are you gonna really sit on the sidelines and wait for something you prefer?
Yeah, I can't be fucking fragile anymore. I keep saying
when you can actually enact the thing you'd prefer, you decided to be quiet. Okay.
Right. And then again, it is amazing to me. Well, first off, we have been learning more and more that the riots have been incited by white extremists, white anarchists.
No
see videos of cops breaking windows on cars, planting bricks. It's all the whole thing with the rioting was made up to distract people from what people were actually protesting about.
You're criminalizing peaceful protesters. It's fascinating.
Right. And then it's insane to me that people are so hard on the 0.01% of citizens who are doing illegal things, but not hard on the 50% of cops who are brutalizing people.
Hello? Right. Let's talk about you have those cops who are more than willing to murder someone, and then everyone else is just willing to watch. It's not even that's right. It's not even you have people who are just oh well, I'm not murdering and I'm speaking out. I think there was that one viral video of the black
lady who yelled at the
she yelled at her colleague, and but I think she faced some backlash for that, and some professional discipline was put on her for that. And then you have that another police officer here in New York who spoke out against her colleagues.
Oh, years ago, right?
Years ago. Yeah,
and she stopped him from killing someone with a chokehold.
That was it.
She got fired.
And she got litigation against her. Yeah.
That's why you saw when Eric Garner was killed, all the cops were standing around because they were afraid, and they were all part of a system where that was based in fear, and it was a hierarchy based in fear.
It was
And
like,
that's what
we
the
don't know
fear.
if they were afraid or if
like
they
a
just hate
mob.
Black people, but it was like probably a little bit of both.
Truly, I think that behaved like a mob. The issue is that the root of the cops, the first police, correct me if I'm incorrect, but I think I'm correct, were created to hunt down runaway slaves. So that was the first purpose of the police system. So that was the root of it. That was never addressed over years and years and years. What it did was it kept racist white people who were friends with wealthy people in positions of power, and they set it up so that they could do whatever they could or whatever they wanted without consequence.
That's right.
Now you have
police unions,
200 years of this mob-like behavior, and these people, and it's not, and listen, it's the same way every white person isn't racist, but every white person benefits from racism.
Right.
It's not that I truly do not think that every cop is out here like, oh, I'm gonna go do some crazy shit today. However, I do believe that every cop, it has been numbed and has been trained and has become complicit to exerting extraneous amounts of power over people for no reason. So every cop has a part in this. And
that's
the
right.
cops who are holding other police responsible and are trying to do what is right, the fact that we're seeing such a pushback for them lets us know that there is a fundamental issue with the way where we're getting these cops from or how we're training them. You have cops walking off the job because they would rather not be cops than not abuse people.
Like what? It just, that screams like so loudly about what the real problem is, and that it's a fundamental issue. It has nothing to do with police reform and has nothing to do with police training. All of those things have been happening. And the truth of the matter is, it's regulated by, trainings are regulated by the office, like the regional, regional administrative decisions. So you have folks who are being like, well, I think this training is necessary. And then you look at the training and it's how to get away with murder, basically.
I mean, right.
Literally. It's
there
crazy.
was a lady who killed somebody, an officer who killed someone, got off with it, and then was teaching master classes.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes. Crazy.
On how to not get in trouble for killing people.
And
it is so disgusting. And the gag is that these are people we pay.
Right.
People we respect, people who are supposed to protect us. That is what never
respect aside, I pay you.
Right.
Yeah, they were never supposed to protect us. We don't have, we have the right to live if you don't get killed. You have the right to liberty if you are not in prison, if you are not a convict. And you have the right to the pursuit of happiness, which technically just means property. And who protects the property? The police. Who keeps the property in line? The police. Just the same way that you have those runaway, slave patrols. And I know that there's different language we're supposed to be using. I have to remember what it is. I'm just saying it out loud because I don't remember. But with even with that being said, we have such the history is so we're so steeped in the history and people just refuse to see it. I've been listening to a lot of James Baldwin this past week, and a lot of what he's had to say has been just so eloquent and so timely for now. It's crazy that this was maybe over 50 years ago.
Unfortunately, it's timely all the time, and that's the issue.
And it's been timely. That's
Timeless.
Right. That's right. So we have, we have so much work to do. As you said, we're not going to come out of quarantine and have solved racism and white supremacy. It's literally going to be a lifetime for, if you are alive, and conscious, maybe if you are 14 and up, for the rest of your life, your job will be dismantling white supremacy, because 14 is supposed to be an age of reckoning, an age of consciousness or what have you. But if you, in general, if you have if you are in possession of a child, if you have babies, if you have students, if you have anyone who looks up to you, nieces, nephews, like, it is your job to not only dismantle the white supremacy that lives and like occupies your space, and now you have to go in and uproot it in the lives of others, people around you. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
It starts with baseline education. The
Agreed.
fact that the history that Americans are taught is not accurate, and it paints this picture.
It's white-sided.
White. I said white, but I meant right. But
right.
yes, right.
Right.
It paints this picture of this glorious creation of this country that did a few things bad, but wow, look at all the great they did. And I mean, we need to talk about how scientifically everyone is Black. Nobody wants to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
We need to work institutionally on top of that to reallocate the respect and the way that Black people are treated in institutions. You know, I heard about Juilliard a couple of weeks ago, where there is a language that white teachers used to teach Black people how to sing opera, and they're like, oh, it's because of your like some word to describe your Black jawline that says you'll sing differently, and you have to learn this language because it's the only language you can speak. It's like so fucked up. I don't remember. I gotta look up what that is. But
yeah, I do that in colleges too. They give. I mean, I think at my school I had a really good experience. I also understand that I was tokenized. So I got a lead every show. I got all of this stuff. I got to do all the stuff. A part of it certainly was because I was talented. I think another part of it is because my mother and my family raised me in Connecticut, and they raised me to be, they didn't mean to, but they raised me to be the most assimilated, most acceptable version of a Black person. So that in turn helped me navigate white space with ease. And I think that they were just really comfortable with me.
That's a very good point. You have the double consciousness, you know, where you're like,
right.
Like, I can fully function in any society. When you come to my family cookout, you're getting uncomfortable, but I can easily, you know, represent wherever I go.
The code switching that we have to learn.
Code switching.
That my family rightfully taught me, but also it was so like, also blinded by the realities that my other Black classmates were going through. Like, if you weren't, first off, there are only one Black and one Black male and female in each class each year. So yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So we were already tokenized, and then to go beyond that, you know, anytime I got to play a variety of roles, and because I got to do a variety of things, look at what has happened with my career. I was given the opportunity to not just do Black stuff. I did a lot of Black stuff too.
There you go.
But I was able to do parts that just fit my voice, or they thought would make me grow.
Look at your audition book.
Right.
Daddy's son, man.
But I look at my classmates who weren't necessarily given the same opportunity, and I did not realize it in college. I was just so psyched that every show I had a lead. I was like, oh, great. This is great. This is great.
You never, yes.
This is great. And then looking back on it and talking with a lot of my classmates, especially recently, I was like, oh, they gave me everything so they wouldn't have to give you anything. But they could say that it's not because you're Black, because look at Juwan.
Right.
And that's an issue.
That's a very good point too. Look, you know, in musical theater, a lot of us can get very comfortable, you know, in that tokenization and in that tokenhood. You know, I think,
which is false, but we buy into it.
True. Right. We it's a sense of comfort, like, and a sense of sort of like, for me, like, oh, like I'm inside the house, so I'm good, kind of,
Right.
like almost like, inside the home,
Oh.
enslaved folks who are in the house versus outside of the house. You're like, oh, well, I'm in the house. I look at Todrick Hall. I'm gonna call people out. RuPaul. I look at Alex Newell, just because everyone's been calling him out this week. I look at us and I'm like, what, like, do you not sense have any responsibility being in this spot right now?
Well, this is what I will say.
And not to chastise, because I
personally,
also have to look at myself and be like, yes.
I think personally, now listen, I love Alex. We had a rough start, but we figured it out. And we have been cool since. I understand and I support the frustration from the trans community with Alex. And particularly right now, it is not a time to be playing games or being funny.
Yeah.
When one, we don't know where you actually stand in regards to this. You've made, quite a bit of success from towing this line, which is beautiful. Yeah. And if that is authentically you, then more power to you. But I understand and I see and I support the frustration of other trans actors and trans singers and trans performers who feel that what should be for a trans person is being taken by someone who we don't know, and then to make kind of jokes about it.
Right. The way I see it,
it's inappropriate.
It's absolutely inappropriate. The way I see it is, when you're building your platform, you have a responsibility to tend to that platform and use it. You could use it for good or for bad. That's your prerogative. But just know that, yes, if you're going to profit off the people whose line you're towing, you're going to get called out when that shit happens. And it's my friend Christina Pitter said something wonderful, that we should start calling it, instead of calling out, calling in, because we're calling you in to the loop. It's like, hey, we want you to be part of this. You just need to learn the vocabulary and take the responsibility. And like, I've had to do that in my life. I still am doing it. I'm still processing how to do that. And I especially empathize with Black people that have to do that in this movement right now, because I know a lot of Black people who are artists and are people that I've worked with. And similar to you, Juwan, we haven't had like the most ideal relationship with, I haven't with this person, but they've been a person and they've been around and we've built a relationship. And when they have to look at their role in supremacy, so to speak, and holding other institutions up, I feel for them differently than I feel for white people, because white people have the privilege to examine themselves.
And also, we do have to acknowledge how much of that was necessary for them to get there. Is work for a place where they can just get there without having to do anything outside of their authentic self. Now listen, on the thing with Alex, I consider Alex a friend. We text, we kiki, whatever. When we see each other, we're supportive of each other. It's all great. Took us a second to get there, but we're there, and that's beautiful. And it's wonderful that we can grow and do all these wonderful things. I, however, am not close enough to Alex, and I consider myself cis. So when that happened at first, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, oh, there goes Alex. It didn't even register to me as an issue. It wasn't until I heard one of my friends, who happens to be a trans woman, really bring it to the forefront why it was an issue.
Is it El Morgan?
Yes, yes.
We had El Morgan on. I spoke to El Morgan a month
El
ago.
Morgan.
I love her, man.
I heard her talk on it. And keep in mind, just days ago, I was at a protest for Black trans lives with thousands. They said it was 15,000, but apparently they miscounted. Over 20,000 people. Even I did not register that as an issue.
Because we all have blind spots.
Precisely. Yeah. And I do think that is important that when we say, hey, that's not okay, that people understand that it's one, from love, and two, for progress, and that we're not going to be right at everything. It's not our job to be right at everything. It's our job to be ourselves, and when we fuck up, to say, oh, I fucked up, I'm so sorry. Another example of someone who could have handled being called in so much better is J.K. Rowling. It didn't have to turn into this whole thing.
No.
And she could have just been like, instead of arguing these, and I can't say unimportant because it's not unimportant, the nuances that she feels she needs to have as a cis woman, she could have just said in this moment, in the timing of it, with the legislation that had just been rolled back, it was more important to just be supportive of the community than try to argue your point.
Your prerogative.
That's exactly, I think, where we're at. And I think for some people, the call out method is like, well, you're not apologetic anyway. So why would I even want to have a conversation with you? And the truth of the matter is, it's not always that people aren't apologetic. It's not always that people won't be apologetic if
sometimes you just don't know.
Sometimes you just don't know. And I think I do like the idea, or even the concept where we are calling folks in. I was just telling a friend this the other day, she's very, very serious about calling out a local, an artist here in Yonkers locally, who hasn't always gotten it right, in terms of like, I'm just trying to be inclusive. And it's just like, well, this sucks. This is not how you do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, do we call him out? He is a white male son of a cop. Do we call him out? No, I don't think so. No, I don't think that's necessary. I personally straight up told her, I was like, I don't think calling him out or putting out a whole statement is necessary, especially if, he's claiming he wants to have a conversation. Now, if you don't want that conversation to be public, however you want to have that conversation, that's up to you, actually. But
it's about having the conversation.
It's about having the conversation, and it's not about just throwing people away. That's not Black.
That's the other
not
thing.
Indigenous. We don't do that. We don't throw people away.
We don't do that.
And we shouldn't,
because that's not our thing.
We are stronger together, always, whoever we are. And I reflect on that myself whenever I'm not really a person to like ghost a friend or anything like that. But if I get really, really hurt by something that like you did and it's like a little unresolved, then like I'm gonna feel my feelings about it. But I'm trying myself right now, especially when it comes to friends who are like people of color, like to reflect on what it means to like back away a little bit. But you also have to protect yourself, that's sort of what I'm reckoning with. Like if you were shady to me or whatever, then like I have to sort of accept that you were shady, but also like maintain a dialogue, because like shutting something out of your life doesn't really stop the problem,
And then I also think that, and this is on both ends, I think that in this really, really tense time right now, which I personally believe we will come out on the other end of this in a better place, but I am very optimistic and very hopeful. I mean, I'll tell you, in New York, when the protests first started, we weren't sure if it was going to be another civil war, and luckily it has turned into, so far, really what it should be, which is people expressing themselves freely, and no one getting hurt. and change is beginning to happen. Because my sense, we already fought the war. Y'all lost. We're not doing this again.
Exactly. We're not rehashing this.
No.
It's not up for debate. Too many, like, I'm not picking up a gun and shooting you.
It's up to the white moderates if there's going to be a war.
Which, it's just mind-boggling, the fact that everyone was scared about that.
Like, no, I mean, well, yeah, like, you think, like, I'm like, that's literally insane. Like, I've never shot a gun in my life. I'm not even, like, interested. So, like, but I'm very interested in societal, economic, political, socioeconomic change in my community. I'm very interested in folks not relegating us to a second-class citizenry. You know, I'm very interested in class equality and class assurance.
I mean, even more than equality, I think that
equity.
Yes, because the truth is that all of these communities, Black, Indigenous, and I know the Indigenous community did get some form of reparation, but what happened to the Indigenous community is unforgivable. The truth of the matter is that we need to put the Indigenous people of this country in the presidency, in the positions of power, in Congress. That would be something that is reputable.
It's baffling that they're not.
Amen.
Isn't that insane?
Wow.
It is insane.
Like, this is their land, straight up.
Here, killed them, said, well, y'all could go in the middle, have a little bit, but we're not going to give you no type of nothing, really. And then they were trying to take that for oil or whatever.
It's really, it's not even reserved for the people who live there. It's literally reserved for themselves. They knew it was there. And that's exactly why they put folks in those spaces.
Right.
And call the reservations.
They need to be given a huge leg up in legislation, in political power, in political pull. I think that Black people should be given the same thing.
Absolutely. Oh my God.
That we built the country for free.
We built the White House 2 times.
Yeah.
2 times.
And so I think that there should be major, not gifts, but payments for the debt that is owed specifically in America to Indigenous people and to descendants of enslaved Africans.
If you have the money to give out unemployment.
Right. And not even this money thing, it's ones and zeros. But what it manifests into is property and power. So by withholding this and by creating this fictional limit, as we saw when they gave everybody a bunch of money that they manifested out of thin air, if you give people the opportunity to create a legacy, to have something that they own, to give them pull, to put them in positions where the people who the cops are protecting are the people who they were once scared of. I mean, in Brooklyn, there was a street that was blocked off because the wealthy people of that street didn't want protests on the streets. But if you have people of color and powerful Indigenous and Black people and Latinx and everyone, you have a diversity of people holding the wealth, holding the property, shit like that wouldn't happen.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's a lot of cases to be made, and you know what? This isn't me trying to call anything out. I just watched the most recent season of The Politician, Ryan Murphy's show where Ben Platt. It's cool.
I never seen it.
I have a sweet tooth for Ben Platt. I'm not gonna lie. I've tried to resist it for a very long time. He's very talented. Absolutely proven himself. There's a storyline. Spoiler alert. I don't care. There's a storyline where he's running for Senate in New York, and they call out. Somebody sends a picture of him at 6 years old wearing Geronimo, and he's like, "I'm so sorry. I apologize." And he does that whole thing in front of like fans or whatever, this character. And then what the storyline turns out to be is that he takes a picture a couple days later in a Geronimo headdress in order to create dirt so they could get bigger dirt on the other campaign. And it's like so fucked up that Ryan Murphy would even let that storyline even happen, because the excuse that they can make is like, oh, well, we're calling out the absurdity of his like ignorance and his like, you know, sort of white supremacy. And at the same time, they have like the only black main character on the show explain to him, this is why you shouldn't do this, and I will be by your side, but you have to promise to vote for you have to promise to sign everybody up in the communities you don't want to go to. And he's like, I will, thank you so much. And it's like one of the like saddest little bitch storylines I've ever seen on a Ryan Murphy show in my fucking life. I look, like, Pose is dope, okay? And there's some great things about what he does. We've talked about it multiple times. I guess this is another segment of Ryan Murphy Writes Real Life, if you will. But what I will say is that he is one of those people who, yeah, you can tell he just lets his writer's room recklessly put out toxic shit sometimes. And that's
sometimes it's true.
But you know what, Big T, and this can get me in trouble, but honestly, you know who does the same shit? And I say this to say that it needs to be an all-around thing, but I cannot, and I do not understand for the life of me, why Tyler Perry is so successful. And I'm really grateful that we have a whole, like, studio owned by a black man, named after Black actors. But the fact that we got there through, and even if he says, well, I make the stuff for us, these are not the images in the stories of black people.
No, dude, I watched The Oval, man.
All the time.
It's still a caricature, even though Medea is dead, and I think I watched Medea's funeral. No, I didn't watch it.
Spoiler alert. Oh man.
Yes, Medea's dead. Even with Medea being dead, though, it's like we're still a caricature. Black women are still a just completely unrepresented. I'm sorry. Like, there might be black women playing the roles that he's writing, but they're written so like I have never in my life been allowed to even be one-dimensional or so one-track minded, and so, you know, like as if I don't have anything else going on.
Bell Hooks writes all this shit that Tyler Perry does. It's fascinating to take the archetypes that are examined by like Mulvey and Bell Hooks and see them in Tyler Perry's The Oval. It is just one of those shows that takes that takes greed and exploits black excellence, and it's really fucked up. And maybe that's not for me to say. I can accept that, but the writing is so bad, man. Like, these actors deserve better. Some of them deserve better. Some of them, the one white dude who plays the president, he totally deserves that show for sure. But everybody else on it, who's like a black actor, they're all excellent actors. It's just the material, and it's written by one dude, and it's directed by one dude, and that's why.
On the toilet, like, what the heck?
There is an essay that went out from someone on my team. One of his other clients put out a request that just for 1 year, Hollywood, movies and TV, produce works of film and stuff that does not utilize one stereotype. And just to see, after 1 year, what the cultural influence of the largest medium, primarily TV, but also film, not reconditioning people to think this way, what that would do to society.
That would be the first year in TV history ever. That would be the first day in TV history.
And
I love that. Where can I sign that petition?
Right. I'll send you guys the link later. But
we'll post it. Real. Fuck yeah, please.
When you think, well, it's just the essay, but I'll send you guys the essay.
We will post it.
When you think about, and the thing that's so dangerous and why we as artists do have to be careful when we have platforms, is because we don't get to pick who digests our work. So the same
Wow.
things, and going back to Tyler, I get that he's saying that. Well, one, I think For Color Girls was the only thing I've ever seen from Tyler Perry that presented, and I can't even write that, he just produced it, but
Right.
that presented fully dimensional Black women in any type of way. But, you know, besides that, whether it's for us or not, that narrative, that imagery is not something that we need to see over and over and over and over and over again. I mean,
Right.
it's also
Because it.
but I mean, I think about the movies that touched the Black Panther, not to like talk about a Disney thing, but to see to see all of humanity, evil, smart, rich, poor, beautiful. Nobody was ugly in that film.
Not a one.
Not even Martin Freeman. Not even
Like,
Frodo.
Not even Mark Freeman.
But to see the spectrum of humanity on Black bodies and look at the reaction when you got to see humanity, just humanity, it was incredible.
That shit broke movie
And
paths.
people carry that. I mean, literally, like, and
Records,
so people want to see.
internationally.
I think about Parasite, which I don't know many,
fuck, man.
besides like the model minority stereotypes of Asian people, but to see the just human struggle. And it wasn't about them being Asian, it was about them being people. And the response that got.
Well, that sort of predicted coronavirus to me. Yeah. That sort of predicted the explosion of us seeing inequities in class divide and all that.
Definitely precipitated.
You know what? That was a prophet. Strange Loop, also a prophet.
I did one time Larry was unable to do the workshop for it, so I stepped in for him as usher for the workshop at MTC. That show, I would come to the theater and Deonta would be like, "You okay, sis?" I'd be like, "No, I'm really not. This shit is too much."
Deontay Warren was also in A Strange Loop?
No, but I would come back to Aladdin after doing that.
Yes.
And he'd be like, "You okay, sis?" I'd be like, "No, no, I'm not."
That was me after listening
beautiful
to the
show.
soundtrack.
That's the most stunning show.
I love it. And actually, my favorite song in that show has always been, I love Elle Morgan's song about following your dreams when the lady's watching Lion King. And that's, of course, it's like the one thing I gravitate to. It's like, follow your dreams. But it just reminds me that even in the darkest time, there's always someone, probably to their own detriment, who is so still blissful and hopeful. And it re-inspires all of us. And I hope that I can always be so blissful and hopeful, even while fighting for change. We shouldn't have to fight for this change, but while we're fighting for stuff that should be a given, to remain that light and that hope for people, that moment stands out to me in the show.
It's a beautiful moment.
That is so beautiful.
There's so many beautiful moments. The revelation of space.
Connecting that just now.
Show.
That's really important. I think even now, it also goes back to what we were talking about in terms of calling people in instead of calling people out. This is not this isn't a time to divide. You know, do we need to address things? Absolutely. But when you said from love for progress, that was like so powerful. I wrote that down because I thought that I really feel like we get that love when we don't stop being ourselves. Like this time isn't necessarily calling us to stop being ourselves. You can still be yourself. But like, if you're not examining the intricacies of what makes it easy for you to be yourself, of what, what is it that, you know, like why can I express myself in this way and then other people can't? You know, is it that they're not creative? Like all these people just aren't creative. No, that's not the problem. You know, it's a matter of like literally just keeping that light, keeping that sweetness. That's so essential. Thank you.
And I think, just say quickly, I think that the invitation, I love what you're saying, calling in, addressing, not dividing. It's not even about people wanting you to not be yourself. It's about how much more of yourself you can be when you're deconditioned from the training of what we are taught, and how much freer you can actually be when you allow everyone else to be as equally free.
Oh,
it's like riding on a train. You know, you can't take it off 2 seats if it's 6 o'clock. If people are trying to get home or people are trying to get to work, 6 p.m. or a.m. But at 6, you gotta like keep your no man spreading. And I feel like white people for 600 years have just been man spreading.
And I hate to tell you, it's a little longer than that. I mean,
oh God, I don't even know. I honestly don't even know. It was a number that.
Let's just talk about the colonization of the world. No, I'm kidding. That's another episode.
The whole planet.
Sure,
and we'd love to have you on for that.
Oh my God, definitely come through again, Juwan.
For sure. I want to do another.
Let's plug anything you have coming up. You have an EP called Becoming that you could catch on Spotify, Apple Music. You're on the Sondheim Disco Fever album. We didn't even get to talk about that. We did not even get to talk about that. You're opening doors. You're in this or whatever that song is. Oh, shit is crazy.
So cool.
Crazy music.
Well, it was fun.
What else? Do you have anything else going on that I didn't say?
I mean, I do have stuff, but I can't talk about it, which is a terrible way to leave things. Sorry.
Nice. No, that's dope. That's
okay.
That's good.
All right.
That's
whatever
good.
you are doing, just send us a flyer. We'll post it. We'll be there. You know.
Yes,
this is like so excellent. Like I can't. You know, I'm just happy to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
It's so nice to know that people care about what I have to say.
It's very
crazy with this beard.
Dude, we give a total shit about what your beard has to say. We're going to have a whole other podcast with your beard individually. Like, you won't be welcome. Your beard will be welcome. No. From Crawley Enterprises to a Stars Board. And Stars Board and right back. I feel a lot of love. Thank you, Juwan.
I love y'all so much.